In Romantasy, the heroine's journey isn't just about defeating a villain. It's about reclaiming herself. It's about stepping into her power, healing the wounds she carries, and learning to trust her own intuition. Welcome to Intuition Unlocked, the podcast empowering empathic women who feel misunderstood, overwhelmed, or disconnected from their intuition, begin to trust their sensitivities, find inner clarity, and show up with embodied, unstoppable confidence in their daily lives. I am your host, Olivia Ashley, an empath and intuitive, and I am so happy you're here. Have you ever picked up a book and felt something in you shift, like a piece of your soul had been reawakened? The kind of book that doesn't just entertain, but ignites something deep inside of you. That's exactly what the trending romantasy genre has done for so many of us. And if you found yourself utterly consumed by these books, obsessing over fae warriors, dragon battles, and the slow burn of impossible love, you are not alone. But what is it about this genre that has so many women feeling more alive than ever before? Could these books be unlocking something deeper, something ancient, intuitive, and wild within us? Well, welcome back to Intuition Unlocked. I'm your host, Olivia Ashley, and today we are diving into the world of romantasy and why this genre is resonating so deeply with women right now. This is more than just fiction. These books I see are mirrors, reminding us of our own untamed nature, our power, our voice, and most importantly, the parts of ourselves we may have unknowingly left behind. In today's episode, you'll learn the rise of romantasy and why it's become a cultural phenomenon, the deeper themes of feminine power, intuition, and wildness that are woven into these stories, and how reading these books is helping so many of us reclaim lost parts of ourselves. So let's get into it, starting with the rise of romantasy and why now? If you've been anywhere near a bookstore or on Book Talk lately, you've seen the explosion of romantasy. Books that blend epic fantasy with deep, sweeping romance. But this isn't just a trend. The resurgence of these stories feels like something far more meaningful, almost as if it's speaking to a collective yearning. Historically, fantasy has been dominated by male-driven narratives, stories of kings, warriors, and chosen ones destined for glory. But something began shifting. More and more women began writing these stories, and suddenly we weren't just side characters or love interests. We, the women, were the ones wielding swords, claiming thrones, and forging our own destinies. The fantasy genre has roots in mythology and folklore where magic and feminine power were once revered. But the difference now is that women are taking the pen back. Writers like Sarah J. Maas, Rebecca Yarros, and the countless other women authors are creating worlds where women are powerful, desired, and free. These stories remind us of something ancient, something we've always known but perhaps forgotten in the noise of everyday life and the cultural beliefs and limitations that have been put on women. It's no surprise to me that so many of us are drawn to this right now. We are in a time where women are reclaiming their voices, their intuition, and their wildness, and we are done playing small. And these books, they're a portal back to that and igniting that spark within. Stories are more than just entertainment. They shape us. They teach us about possibility, about who we are, and about who we could be. What makes romantasy so compelling is that it doesn't just offer an escape. It offers a remembrance, a remembering of who we were before the world told us to be smaller, quieter, more accommodating. These stories I see awaken something deeply psychological and emotional within us. They tap into the aspects of ourselves that we may have buried beneath duty, expectation, and time. There are two aspects that I see are coming forward within these stories. The first is the wild woman within. For generations, women have been conditioned to be the good girl, to be quiet, selfless, agreeable. We've been taught to suppress our instincts, to prioritize logic over intuition, and to take up less space. Let the man come and save us. If you think of most of the classic Disney movies, the heroine needs a savior. It's only recently that there have been heroines that actually become the main character and the saviors of themselves and others. So when we read about heroines who are untamed, fierce, and just unapologetically themselves, it begins to stir something within us. The wild woman archetype in Romantasy is magnetic because she represents something many of us have lost touch with, that raw instinctual power. These heroines are not waiting for permission. They are fierce in their desires. They're relentless in their pursuit of freedom and unwilling to settle for a life that cages them. And this isn't just about fantasy. It's about real life and the ways that these stories are connecting into the lives and realities we are living in this moment. How many of you have at some point put aside your deepest passions in favor of practicality? How many of you have silenced your own voices to keep the peace? How often have you denied your own hunger, whether it be for adventure, for knowledge, curiosity, or pleasure, because you were taught it was too much or not the correct route? Romantasy reminds us that too much is a lie, that we were never meant to be small, that our fire and longing are not flaws, but they are our greatest strengths. And that, I think, scares a lot of people. Yet it's something that as women, we can begin to reclaim. And I think this is why readers cannot get enough of these stories, because every time we watch a heroine embrace her power, we, the reader, are reminded that we can too. We are allowed to take up space, and we can reclaim the parts of ourselves we thought we had to leave behind. The second piece I see in these stories is the heroine's journey. In traditional storytelling, we often have seen the hero's journey, the lone warrior who ventures out, who faces trials, conquers enemies, and returns victorious. It's a story of external battles and physical triumphs. And while this arc has its place, as a woman, the heroine journey follows a different path, one that speaks deeply to the experiences of women. In Romantasy, the heroine's journey isn't just about defeating a villain. It's about reclaiming herself. It's about stepping into her power, healing the wounds she carries, and learning to trust her own intuition. Often, the heroine's journey begins with a woman who does not yet realize how powerful she is. She may have been cast aside, overlooked, underestimated, or faced a life where she couldn't step into her power. But through the challenges she faces, whether it's war, betrayal, magic, or love, she begins to remember who she is. And unlike the hero, whose strength often comes from force or physicality, often the heroine's power comes from transformation. She learns to embrace her emotions rather than suppress them. She learns that her softness and her love and her ability to feel deeply and compassionately are not weaknesses. They are her greatest weapons. It's what guides her. And this journey mirrors what so many women experience in their own lives, that we are taught to be good, follow rules, and fit neatly into roles. But there comes a moment in many of our lives where we realize we are more than what we've been told. We are powerful in ways we've never imagined. And this is why Romantasy is so intoxicating. It's not just about dragons, magic, or forbidden love. All of those are beautiful and fun, but at its core is the transformation that happens in these stories. It's intoxicating to watch a woman step fully into herself, into pleasure, into desires, into using and expressing her voice and true self. And it allows us to realize we can do the same. And so with this, I wanted to also channel in some information regarding what is this broader energy? What does spirit and our guides have to share around the energetic pull of Romantasy? And here's what I received. There is a deeper spiritual and energetic reason why so many women are being drawn to the Romantasy genre right now. These stories call forth the inner expression and embodiment of the divine feminine, while also restoring balance to the masculine aspects within women. It ignites a remembrance of leadership, of inherent worth, and of love, pleasure, and the desire that are birthrights to be felt and explored without guilt. Romantasy is dissolving the societal layers that have long dictated how women should exist, express, and conform. These stories break down these barriers, serving as mirrors that reflect back the power, the truth, and the potential that already resides within each of us. It whispers to our soul that within us, there is something wild and fiercely alive, wanting to be reclaimed, and this is the time to do so. So while the magic and creatures and fantasy elements may not exist in this physical reality, they are awakening a remembrance of deep interconnectedness between all things in our own world now. Fantasy stretches the mind beyond its conditioned limitations, expanding what we believe to be possible and opening unseen doorways in our life. And we rationally know we won't be able to emulate the exact magic or loves that we read about. And yet we do know that there is truth within the words, that these stories push you to explore the self-imposed boundaries in your own life, and it helps to begin dissolving them. That's where this power, this draw is coming from. And a huge aspect of this is at its core, the collective energy behind Romantasy speaks to a revolution of self, a primal soul level awakening led by the feminine, the creator within. These books invite us to take stock of our values. Are we playing small? Are we holding on to beliefs that were never truly ours? What are we worthy of? What do we want in this life? What are our desires? And how do we begin to get it? In a time of heightened uncertainty, immense stress, and unstable external realities, these stories provide not only an escape, but a reclamation of power for us. The heroines of these books face immense challenges, yet they rise. They become stronger, braver, and more in tune with themselves and their desires. So as we read these, we get to remember too that we can claim our own power in space, not in a way that demands destruction, but in a way that declares, I own my destiny. I call forward my desires, and I create my own story. This is why the heroine's journey in Romantasy is so compelling. Unlike the traditional hero's journey, we get to reclaim ourselves. And these stories often follow a familiar energetic arc. Usually it starts with the awakening. The heroine is called to something more. She senses that her current reality is not all there. And then it moves into the descent. The heroine faces trials, betrayals, internal conflicts that force her to strip away the illusions that step into her true power. And then they step into the rising. She gets to integrate her wisdom, embracing both her feminine and masculine aspects, and claim her full expression. And that, I think, is kind of what we're doing as humans. We all, I think, feel this stirring that there is something great within, and we are wanting to find ways to express it, to remember it, to give space within it. And our life is the descent. Like, we go through trials and tribulations and challenges, and yet there's always this awakening and rising happening all throughout. It's like we're just moving through the cycle again and again, and it feels like we're at a time where it's so important to remember who we are and what we are capable of. And at the heart of these stories is a profound trust and intuition. Time and time again, the heroines we read about make decisions not based on logic alone, but the deep knowing within. They choose the path that resonates with their soul, even if the world tells them otherwise. They trust their hearts to guide them to the right love, the right choice, and the right future, even if no one else believes that's the case. And in doing that, they show us that we can too. So the future of Romantasy and this feminine rising that I'm sensing is that while there are some that dismiss this genre and are definitely not going to be on board with this, the rise of Romantasy is only beginning. I see its influence expanding both into academia with courses dissecting its themes and into literature where more and more female authors are emerging to bring forth new worlds and love stories, and also into our culture as more women awaken into their own power, worth, and desires. This genre is playing a subtle yet powerful role in shifting the collective consciousness. It is reminding women to trust themselves, to ask for more, and to create a world where love, magic, creativity, justice, and balance thrive, and we are leading the way. This is more than fiction. It is a revolution. And I felt very called to make this episode because I began reading Romantasy at the end of 2023 when I really had been a self-help girly, self-development books, some fun fiction like Outlander, but I never really dove into like a true story in this way. This was completely new to me. And so when friends started to recommend Sarah J. Maas's work to me, at first I was a little hesitant, but then I thought, I'm hearing this multiple times from multiple people. Let me give this a go. And there's definitely the me before reading these books and the me after these books. It was like it ignited something deep within. It was a powerful mirror to me in that it helped me reflect back to the parts of me I somewhat let go. For me, it was a very personal reflection where as I transitioned from maiden to mother, and as I went from single to married, there was many aspects of myself that I just gave up. I let go of a lot of my wildness. I let go of some of my spark willingly, I will say, to step into the roles I was facing. And that made sense. It felt right. I learned those roles. But then I started to feel not whole, would be the best way to describe it. I started to feel like there was parts of me that I kind of just let die, like core aspects of my personality and my inner spark that had to get extinguished so I could learn these new paths and roles, yet it left me empty. And so when I read these books, it reminded me of how alive I used to feel. Not that marriage and motherhood took my spark or aliveness away, but I prioritized everything else above me. That was the crux of it. And so my last year has firstly been me devouring as many series and books that I could in this realm. And Sarah J. Maas took up a lot of my year, but I read every one of her books and then went into Fourth Wing and Everflame and Quicksilver. And there's so many more books I have yet to discover. Yet at its core, it brought me back to life. It reminded me that there is a me underneath all the things I do and be, and I'm wanting to reclaim her. I'm finding ways to remember to use that wildness to get excited and passionate about my life while still maintaining the roles I'm in. So if you're in this realm and you too are finding your way through this genre, or maybe you haven't started reading, but this is piquing your curiosities, I just want to say that there's something within these books that is incredibly reflective, powerful, and supportive. Romantasy is truly more than just a passing trend. It's a reflection of something deeper. This is a calling back to ourselves. It's a reclamation of our feminine power, our voice and intuition, and it reminds us that we are not just caretakers, workers, mothers, supporters. We are heroines of our own stories. We are not just escaping into fantasy. We are remembering who we are, who we were always meant to be. These stories are giving us permission to feel again, to want and hope and dream and reclaim our life and ourselves. As we turn each page, we aren't just following the journey of a heroine, we are rediscovering our own. So if you too have felt this awakening through books like A Court of Thorns and Roses, Fourth Wing, or Quicksilver, know that you're not alone. This is a movement, a remembering, a return, and I think it's connect more of us women in a way that we need. Sisterhood is real, and we are remembering the power in that. So if this episode spoke to you, make sure you're following the podcast and please share it with your fellow Romantasy reading girlies. Let's keep this conversation going. Feel free to DM me on Instagram with your favorite Romantasy book and what it's unlocked for you, and I will share the same with you. So until next time, remember, your story is still being written, and you, my love, are the author. Thank you for joining me on Intuition Unlocked. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment of insight, guidance, or intuitive inspiration. To dive deeper into our community and get access to exclusive content, head to my website at www.olivia-ashley.com and subscribe to my newsletter. You can also connect with me on Instagram at wildlyolivia for daily inspiration and updates. Remember, your intuition is your superpower. Trust it, nurture it, and let it guide you. Until next time, I'm Olivia Ashley, and I can't wait to connect with you again.